Let me ask you something. Have you ever seen a judge pause a courtroom, not to hand down a punishment, but to actually deliver compassion? Or how about this? Have you ever heard a verdict that felt less like a legal sentence and more like a lesson in humanity? Well, today we're going to talk about a man who basically changed the way millions of us think about justice itself. Okay, let's dive in. We are talking about the incredible legacy of Judge Frank Caprio. This is a man whose courtroom, right, it became this global symbol of mercy. His kindness went way, way beyond the city limits of Providence, Rhode Island. So, to really get who he became, you've got to go back to where he came from. Long before anybody called him the world's nicest judge, he was just a kid from a family that, well, didn't have much at all. And this background, it really sets the stage for everything. So Frank Caprio, he was born in Providence to Italian immigrant parents. His dad worked these brutal, exhausting hours, barely spoke any English, and the family, they really, really struggled. To pitch in, young Frank did whatever he could. We're talking polishing shoes on street corners, delivering milk before the sun was even up. They might have been poor when it came to money, but man, they were so rich in values. And you know what? It was his father who gave him this one piece of advice that would pretty much become the North Star for his entire life. This right here, this quote is, well, it's everything. His dad told him, when you grow up and gain power, never forget the poor because we were once standing exactly where they are. I mean, just think about that. Those words, they stuck with him, and they absolutely shaped the judge he was destined to become. But, his journey wasn't just a straight shot to becoming the judge we all know. Actually, when he first got on the bench, he was known for being pretty strict. He really believed that being firm, that was the key to justice. And this slide just lays out that transformation so perfectly, doesn't it? He went from being this judge who followed the law to the letter, asking only, okay, what law was broken, to a judge who looked past the violation and saw the actual person standing there. And he started asking a totally different and way more important question: why? Why did this happen? So what could cause such a massive shift in thinking? Well, it all came down to a single case. There was this struggling mom, a single mother, who stood in front of him, and she just couldn't pay a small fine. So Judge Caprio did what the law said. He issued the punishment, by the book. But later that night, and his dad gently but firmly corrected him with these words that are just so powerful. The law may be right, but justice is incomplete when mercy is missing. Wow. And that was it. That was the light bulb moment for Judge Caprio. From that day forward, he stopped seeing just violations and he started seeing. And this whole new philosophy, it created a courtroom that was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. And it's the one that eventually millions of us got to see on the show Caught in Providence. So his approach, it kind of boiled down to this really simple 3-step process. First, just listen. Listen to the person. Second, try to understand the why. What's the story behind their situation? And finally, his main goal was to offer help, not just hand out a punishment. Caught in Providence was not your typical court show at all. There was no drama, no humiliation, none of that spectacle stuff. It was just humanity on full display. What you saw were real people getting a second chance. Fines got reduced or even dismissed. And get this, sometimes Judge Caprio would literally pay the fines himself, out of his own pocket. It's no wonder it resonated with people all over the world. It showed something you almost never see in a courtroom: real, genuine hope.
And really, he summed up his entire philosophy with one simple idea. He said, I don't punish people, I help them learn. For him, that courtroom wasn't just a place for penalties, it was more like a classroom for life. So his impact, it became this incredible legacy of kindness. It was this constant reminder that, hey, authority and compassion, they absolutely can and they absolutely should walk hand in hand. And he was always super clear about how he did it. He'd say, I never changed the law, I just remembered the people behind it. So see, it wasn't about him trying to rewrite the law books. It was about putting humanity back at the center of the system we already have. So after decades of incredible service, Judge Caprio retired in 2023. But then, just a short time later, he was diagnosed with cancer. And in 2025, the world sadly lost this wonderful man. But even in his final days, he was just a total figure of humility and gratitude. So, when you boil it all down, what's the big takeaway from his life's work? It's this incredibly powerful lesson, right? Justice without compassion is basically incomplete.
And we always have to remember that laws are written for people, not the other way around.
He may be gone from the courtroom, but his message is still here, loud and clear, and it's all captured in this one perfect phrase: justice must have a heart.
And that really just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. What if every courtroom, every single person in a position of power was guided by this one simple but profound principle?
Just imagine, what would our world look like then?